What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. So, and I'm really excited to say that officially, as of last week, I've changed my name back. So I'm officially back to my maiden name, back to Anderson after 20 years. Yeah, so obviously everyone knows me as Kylie. I'm the cash flow queen. And I'm really excited to be here in this credible space. Gertrude, I know you put on an amazing event around the globe. And it's just a beautiful opportunity to bring women together. So I'm blessed and honoured to be here, and thank you for reconnecting with me. And I want to talk about my favourite topic today, which I always talk about, and especially given the circumstances going on around the globe at the moment, and that's about money. Yes, it's that horrible word that a lot of women shy away from, but it's about money. And I'm talking about that because I've been doing some really interesting work lately with some pension specialists, and they've really woken me up to what's going on around the world with women. I want to share a few statistics with you, because did you know that especially in the UK alone, that the majority of pensioners, over 61% are women. The average net income for female pensioners per week is approximately 85% of their male counterparts. So that means the result of this is over 2/3 of pensioners are living in poverty are women. So my question to you, is this going to be you? Because the simple fact is, more and more, we've heard some incredible stories already, that more and more women are staying single, they're getting divorced, they're having to deal with their own finances, and they have to create their own wealth for the future. And a lot of women just do not think about wealth creation over time. And as females, we tend to really, really shy away from talking about money. I talk to women all the time, and I create high ticket programs, and I talk to women about money, and it's often negative energies that come up around money. In the fact that it's things like greed, it's things like sleazy sales, it's things about like, I couldn't possibly charge that for what I do. I don't believe I'm worth that. That's the most common one I hear over and over again. And who would pay me this? So I'm really curious as to whether you've said any of that to yourself in the past. I'd love to hear, and I'd love you to share if you hear any of those stories playing in your head. Because I want to share a quick story with you around recently. I saw a post in a Facebook group, and that post was a female entrepreneur I highly respect, sharing her story of how she's just done $1 million launch. And I was absolutely horrified by the way women reacted. They literally tore her down strip by strip by strip. They called her a liar. They called her crazy. How dare you share this in a pandemic? How dare you share your money story with us? And I felt guilty being part of the community that did that to her. And I stepped away from the group. Because what I realized, it's important to see who you surround yourself with. So very, very, very important to watch who you surround yourself with. But also watch what things and negative things come up for you. Because remember, it's not often your fault. It's often governed by our own history, our stories, our limiting beliefs, and what we've actually gone through in our lives. But I firmly, firmly believe that if good women earn good money, they do good things with it. So it's time for us to make a big impact. But let me tell you a little bit about my story and how I found my gift of helping other women to go out there and create a bigger impact online. Because it wasn't always easy for me, and it wasn't always what my calling was. Because when I was young, all I wanted to be was a mum. I never aspired to run my own business, never aspired to speak on stage, and certainly never aspired to travel the globe. I grew up in a very small country town in Australia. I had the most amazing parents and wonderful family. My parents have still been married now 50 years on. And I wanted that dream, you know, that white picket fence, the 2 kids, the husband, and that was it. I was happy and content with that dream. And I thought I met him very young. I was just 17 when I fell in love. And after 6 fabulous years with him, he took me away for one of the most amazing romantic weekends. If you've ever been to Australia in the Barossa Valley, it's absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful wine country. We went to this little cottage. We sat in a spa. He poured champagne and he asked me finally to marry me. I was so excited, obviously. This was everything I dreamed of at that time. And I couldn't wait to tell my parents. But when I returned home, we drove down the driveway and I saw a police car leaving. Now, that wasn't necessarily an unusual thing around our area. We grew up in small country towns. We knew the police. And quite often my brother loved to play with fast cars. He liked to do burnouts and things like that. If you're a bit of an Aussie, you know that sort of thing. They love their V8s and they love their cars. So I actually turned around and joked with my partner at the time and said, "What's he done now?" Never thought anything of it. A few minutes later, I walked into the kitchen. I saw my mum's face and she turned around and told me he was dead. Life can change in an instant. And at that moment in time, I realized how precious life can really be. It can really change. And I know a lot of you have got incredible stories about things you've been through. So you know that it can actually change in just a moment. And over the next few years, really, it was a bit of a blur for me. I don't remember a lot of it, but we finally got married. And less than a year later, he came home and said, "I don't love you anymore, I'm leaving." My whole life, everything I dreamed of was just devastated. I'd been through probably the two biggest tragedies you can go through in a very short space of time, all at the age of 23. And a few years later, I actually found myself in a very similar situation. I'd fallen into this kind of next relationship, which if anyone knows out there as women, should have been a rebound, and instead it was ended up 4.5 years later. But I thought I was pregnant for the second time around. I was standing in the bathroom waiting for that test, and actually I found out that I wasn't, and I was devastated. And that was when my universe changed, because I turned around and said to the universe, "Right, what are you trying to tell me? What do I need to do? This is clearly not my path." And at the time, I beat myself up about it. I broke down. I did everything I shouldn't have done, but I did the best thing I could have ever done. And that was I booked my first plane ticket overseas. And I got the travel bug badly. And I did. I've been into over, 45 different destinations now and counting. I've experienced the most incredible different cultures, communities. I've seen the most amazing sights around the globe. But of course, to do that, you have to fund your travel budget. So then I got stuck into that horrible rat race of the corporate world. And as the beautiful introduction I got before, I then got into a state agency and I built up $1 million sales office in London, which I loved. I loved property. I can talk about property for hours. But what really happened was I got burnt out. And actually, I wasn't living my inner truth at the time. And it wasn't until my boss turned around and did something one day and I looked at him and I went, "I don't want to be him in 10 years' time. I just really don't." But the reality here of what would happen is that I'd actually lost my golden years. I'd actually worked my butt off through the time when most people were having family. I got bullied for not having kids by friends and family. I got asked what was wrong with me every time I went out to certain circles of friends. And actually what I did was actually really felt like a failure as a female. And I didn't know that that was what was bubbling up inside of me for many years. And it wasn't until I started my entrepreneurial journey that, as they say, the old traditional saying, what is it? That an entrepreneur's journey is not about business, it's about personal development. And that's when all of this bubbling stuff decided to explode. So it's been a very interesting journey now of learning about healing my past wounds. I had actually blocked out for 25 years that the day that my brother died was my engagement. I'd actually completely forgotten it. When I found out under a healing session, I had to ring my mum and ask her, was that the case? That's how much I'd blocked it out of my life. I did some past life regression, which was fascinating because I learned that actually I had massive families in my previous lives, and I got told my soul was here to make an impact. And now I firmly believe that my passion is to help other women to share their gifts, to create bigger income for themselves so that they can make a bigger impact. And as women, it's time to rise. The opportunities and the barriers to entry have been removed. As I always say, there's no more stuffy men in suits telling us what we can or cannot do. because I was in that corporate world that did the times they told me I couldn't do something. And after working with many women now who are currently kind of working one-on-one with their clients, I like to create a methodology to now leverage your time so that you can generate recurring income, you can grow more, and you can make a bigger impact. It's a very simple 4-step process called a plan, package, promote, and profit. Simple as that. Because more and more women are now stepping into their powers and true gifts through the entrepreneurial path. So I'm really excited to be there to support that. But I want to ask you 3 key questions. The first question: when was the last time you thought you were worthy and gave yourself a pay rise, even if you work for yourself? The second question: it's time to thrive, not survive, even through these difficult times. I know a lot of people thriving right now. Everyone here has an amazing, amazing vision. But my question to you is, how are you going to fund it? How are you going to make a difference? And the third question is, do you have the ability to go from working one-on-one to one-to-many? Because that is the power of wealth, because it makes you create an impact. So my message to you, to leave it with you, is let's increase our income so that we can go out and increase our impact. Because remember, good women do good things when they have lots of money. And that's me done.